podcast with Lauren Polly, your invitation for living on the lighter side of life. I'm Lauren Polly, and I am delighted you have chosen to join me today for episode 227. Holding your own. Today, we're going to talk about big energies and big dynamics and interactions that we have day in and day out with all sorts of different people in all sorts of different scenarios, and how to hold your own in the midst of those big, intense energies, whilst not having to tighten up, tense up, and start to defend yourself. We just started the next round of the Quiet Your Mind 21-day program. We just had our first live call yesterday, and it was fascinating really talking to this new group of people who've joined the program. What is the one thing that really takes away your sense of peace and possibilities? And time again, it came back to this conversation of dealing with people. I feel perfectly wonderful when I'm out in nature or when I'm around a couple of really good friends that feel like home, and I know I can let my guard down and just relax. I don't have to prove anything. Even if there is an upset, we're pretty easy with each other to kind of work around it. It just was funny, and it's not the first time I've heard that in a workshop that I've done. I actually hear this time and time again, and believe it or not, notice it in myself as well. The thing and the wild card of life are really and truly the other people that we have to deal with, those uncontrollable variables that we feel like if we just had enough control over, we would have peace and ease and things would be a lot better. But you can't have control over others. That's kind of where the rub begins. So it's really learning how to be able to flex those muscles of being aware of other people. If you're empathic, if you're sensitive, if you just have a great deal of awareness, you may be feeling the intensity of other people, especially when they shoot it at you if you get in an argument or go toe to toe with somebody. Sometimes, even just socially, you're having just a hey, how are you conversation, and there is a wall or a wave of energy that comes off of them, and before you notice your emotive state is differently. Your emotions will change. Your mental state may change. That actually isn't you. That isn't yours. That is just your awareness of the person you're dealing with. I've done lots of shows and on various topics all about that. Really and truly knowing that you are aware, you're not your awareness. You're just aware of other people. So the things that you are aware of, someone else's upset, someone else's need to defend or prove or push, even someone who's meeting it with you with an intensity, either anger or sadness or upset, you may feel those ripples coming off of them and rippling through you. You may start to notice old patterns resurfacing and getting triggered almost, where your emotions change, your mentation changes, your body will tighten. But again, you just have to catch yourself in that moment and just go, okay, what am I aware of here? What am I aware of with this other person? And with that question, even now as I ask that, can you actually start to notice your body relaxing a bit? The trick with this is it actually allows you to depersonalize what you're aware of. And it lets you take a little bit more of an observer stance in an intense interaction. And most of us, we don't do that, right? If there's a very intense circumstance, if there's a lot of drama, if there's a big energy or an intense emotion, we tend to take everything that we're aware of and we laser focus it right to that person we're trying to deal with. And with that, our perspective is lost. We become so entrenched in that circumstance that we lose the awareness that we are aware. We start to feel like everything is ours and we get a bit lost that way. And having the space to actually see a different possibility, to be more open minded and more energetically open to go, you know what, this energy is very intense. but I wonder how I can shift it. I wonder how I can change it. Even wonder if I can just find an out. Like, where is the escape hatch here? Sometimes, sometimes we actually can't find that because we get so entrenched in that intensity of emotion in that moment. So, asking that question of, what am I aware of here? And just play with me here. Think about the last upset you had, last time where you felt a little bit entrenched in your circumstance or entrenched in someone else's upset or drama. Take a beat, take a breath, and what were you aware of in that moment? Without making yourself wrong for being aware or for losing your perspective, losing your choice. Also, without making them wrong for being dramatic or upset or pulling at you, whatever that thing was, without a judgment that will pull you into the rightness or the wrongness that just locks you up more. What were you aware of? And even if you don't have a thing that pops, can you notice just with that question, do you start to have more of a sense of space? This is a gold mine. The sense of space is the highest commodity, in my opinion, especially when we're dealing with other people, because the more space you have, the more perspective you have. You'll be able to see things others can't, and you'll be able to navigate the situation better. Also, the more space you have, the more ease you have, the less tightness and contraction that you and your body may be experiencing in the moment. And of course, the biggie, the less reactive you're going to be. The more space you have around any circumstance, any person, any point of view that you have, the less you're likely to have a big red button pushed by somebody. And we all have this experience. I know you can probably look back even just over the last week and find a place where someone just pushed your buttons. You may have people in your life who just love pushing your buttons all the time. There are people who just function that way. That's how they just find joy, just kind of like enjoyment of life, is they like to push other people's buttons. Be aware of that, absolutely. But more than that, not making them wrong, not making you wrong, more than that, where I go with this is like, well, why would I have a button to begin with? If there's something that pushes and triggers me where I immediately lose my sense of space, I lose my perspective, I get lost in the emotive quality, my mentation changes, my whole thought pattern changes, and I can't see my way clear. We all have that. Where I go with this is, yes, what am I aware of? And also, hey, how come I have this button in the first place? And sometimes just being aware of the fact that you are having your buttons pushed, that you are losing your sense of space, perspective, choice in this circumstance, even in a relationship. Not just one circumstance. How many relationships do you have where you're just kind of in reaction all the time to that person? An amazing way to get free from that, is to start to look at your own choice to have a button to begin with. So many of us have reactionary patterns that we've built defense after defense after defense around. And some of us have built blinder after blinder after blinder around it as well. So you don't even realize that it's there until it's too late. You've been triggered, you go into yelling, screaming, shut down, what have you. Even if this conversation that you and I are having right now, even if this exploration that it's opening in you comes after the fact, that's okay. At least it's occurring. A lot of times working at this level where you are getting lost in big emotions, big intensities, and you're losing yourself. You're unable to hold your own, right? You're unable to hold your space and your perspective, and you lose yourself in the interaction. A lot of times the first step is noticing it after it occurs and working like we are, kind of retroactively, looking at that circumstance, becoming more aware, getting some more space around it. What were you aware of with the other person? What were your buttons that were getting triggered? And oh my God, why would I have a button around that in the first place? That's an interesting choice. After that muscle is developed, after that exploration starts, you'll be able to catch yourself sooner and sooner and sooner. And eventually, there will be a sense of space that starts to develop around that particular button. So the next time you're met with that person, you're met with that intensity, you're met with that emotion, whatever that thing is, you're met with that judgment that somebody always comes at you with, where normally you shut down immediately or you flare up in order to defend yourself. Eventually, more space will start to form around it. Well, you'll start having nanoseconds, sometimes into greater seconds, more pause, more space to actually stop yourself from reacting. Planting your feet down in that circumstance once you recognize it, super, super helpful. Plant your feet. Maybe stand up a little bit taller so you physically can get some space. Expand your energetic space. And from there, start to see if your perspective on what you can choose in that moment starts to open as well. It's fascinating because so many people that I work with one-to-one, this is what comes up so many times of like, God, I know better. I know better. I knew that energy would trigger me. I knew if that person came at me with that certain judgment, I would shut down. Or, oh my goodness, I blew up at that person again. I knew better. And it's interesting because so often it comes with such a self-judgment of like, gosh, I know this, and yet I still keep falling prey to these old patterns. But the biggest thing is you're noticing it now. Awareness is like 99% of what it takes to change things. If you're aware of it, and if you're doing this work of wondering about it, exploring it, breaking it down just a little bit without judgment, it actually starts to open more space so that the next time it occurs, you'll catch it sooner. Maybe you'll blow for a second or two and then you'll go, oh, wait a second, I know this pattern. No, thank you. That's right. What did Lauren say? What am I aware of? Ask that question. Why do I have this button that's getting pushed? Okay, that's interesting. Plant your feet. Take a breath, take a beat, get bigger. And with that bigness, can you actually open your perspective and see what else you can choose? Holding your own in the face of intensity, in the face of difficult people, or in the face of old patterns that are just so deeply grooved in that, again, you've got that button, but it's under layers of blinders. It's under layers of protection, of defense. It takes a little bit of work. It takes some tenacity to be present with it. But if you can be with it without judgment, you can allow yourself to wonder about it. And next time you're involved with that one person in that relationship, in that circumstance, without going on hypervigilance where you have to tighten up and look for it and like kind of cower in defense, if you again just remember to plant your feet, stand a little taller, breathe a little deeper, and actually allow your energetic space to open, allow your mind to quiet and to open from there, I wonder what sense of peace and home you can have with yourself in your body in the midst of it. And from there, I wonder what sense of possibility you'll actually be able to have that may lead that whole dynamic in a different direction. It is possible to change this. I've changed this a lot for myself. I've also walked many, many people through it as well. Just start to play with this and see what will open for you. Again, please remember, the more you judge you or the more you judge that other person in the interaction, the more you're going to stick both of you. This isn't about rightness or wrongness. This is about just noticing what you're aware of, what you're reacting to, and how often you don't hold your own. You give up your sense of space and possibility in favor of the intensity you're met with. Please listen to this episode again, break it down a little bit more if needed, and if you'd like some one-to-one assistance with it, reach out to me for a discovery session so we can dig in a little bit deeper. I'll put the link to that down below. Have an amazing week, and as always, I will chat with you next Tuesday.